Alright, so it is Sunday the 20th of July. It's 2 weeks since my last episode. I just recorded this whole video, by the way, and I did not have my microphone plugged in, but it is what it is. We'll run through it again. So I'm going to skim through a lot of trades here because a lot of them are not very interesting. I'm going to go over the interesting trades, and yeah, let's do it. Let's run over the trades from the last 2 weeks. So I started off with a counter trend trade. We had recently just broken bearish after running into resistance, and for some reason I was looking for long scalps at, a not very ideal point within a range, mind you. So no surprise that I took a loss on that one. In hindsight, it was not a very good trade. Next, I went for more of a pro trend trade, but I unfortunately got sniped out of that one as well. I entered kind of confirmationless, more of just a reaction off my zone, and I immediately got stopped out. Next, I decided that it would be a good idea to try and long after getting an SFP of a significant high, and while we were in a significant zone of resistance at the high of a range, mind you. So no surprise that I took a loss on that one as well. I did write down some of my notes as to why I entered, and I get, it was a lower time frame entry. I was looking for another run on this high, but it did not come, and I paid for trying to long the top. I then tried to short the bottom, and paid for that as well. And sure, it was pro trend, and apparently there were confirmations on there, loss of POC absorption. So, maybe not the worst trade in hindsight. If those confirmations were there, then maybe it was a decent entry. They ended up bailing after SFPing the local range low. So yeah, on a lower time frame, I realized that I kind of entered at the low of a lower time frame range, and my idea kind of got validated by us getting a bullish move after SFPing the low. So yeah, I was able to get out of that one with a limited loss, but let me try and figure out where that was. So that was the 9th. So I must have taken a 1% risk on this one initially. Managed to take half the loss that I initially wanted to. Then by this point, this is where I entered an ETH trade. So let me actually pull that back up. So at this point, Bitcoin and ETH were getting some aggressive moves to the upside. Bitcoin was pushing up towards a significant high. I think this might have actually been all-time high, it was. And ETH was running into resistance, but we were still a ways away from my target. I thought that this high made sense, and this is also a decision point high, so I was entering these trades thinking there was a possibility that we break out above this high now, or that maybe we just come up to hit the target, get something bearish, and then retrace from there. That was also a possibility, but yeah, I was looking for longs, considering that there really wasn't much opportunity on Bitcoin. Maybe there was something on a lower time frame here. I basically longed the same thing on ETH. I just thought it had better targets to aim for. And at this point, market Cipher was looking very bullish on Ethereum. The daily time frame momentum started pushing above the 60 line, looking very bullish. How the white part is widening, and the 12-hour was doing the same thing with some very nice looking money flow. And pretty much across the board, things were looking like ETH could really get a significant move to the upside here. We were starting to retrace on the 1-hour time frame. We did print a red dot following that little retracement, but I just went to the lower time frames on market Cipher. I waited until I saw signs of a higher low coming in. I liked what I saw on the 6-minute with this trigger wave printing, a very nice continuation of this direction. I could probably draw a perfect trend line, and yeah, that is pretty dang perfect. So nice continuation of direction there. And on a lower time frame, there were some market structure confirmations. We did start breaking above a lower high. I did enter a little bit early. I was maybe rushing into this one a little bit. Actually, in hindsight, I could have had a better entry with better risk reward. Could have entered here with a much closer stop loss, but I'm not complaining. I was able to enter a trade. I ended up sitting in this one for a little bit. If I played out a little bit more, I did enter another trade over here, but this was not for the challenge. That was actually a CoinM long on a different exchange. I don't know why I'm on the 1 minute doing this, but if you don't know what CoinM is, that just means that my margin for the trade is ETH. So if I make a profit on the trade, it is paid out in Ethereum, and if I take a loss, then it is a loss in Ethereum. But yeah, at this point I did enter another trade, and this was nighttime, so I ended up going to sleep around this area. And at this point, I did put my stop loss to entry on this trade. I believe I maintained risk on this one. I kept my stop loss pretty much where my stop loss was for this trade. And I was considering having a limit order set up around here. That was like a 3.5 to 1. I think I wanted to have it set here. But for some reason I didn't. I actually think I passed out before I wanted to because I was watching price and I wanted to set a limit order before I went to bed, but I just didn't do that. because when I woke up I did not take a profit, and we had retraced a bunch. If I click off of that drawing, so yeah, I was not TPing on my trade down here, and I did enter another trade over here. So this one was a small win. I locked in about $5 with this one. So yeah, I locked in about 4.7 bucks with this one. This was the first trade I took on this exchange. A little scalp that I ended up bailing out of early. If I fast forward a little bit, I believe I closed my trade out somewhere around here, because we started losing significant lows, and I thought a move to lower support made sense. I was going to look for another trade around this area, but we just ended up stop hunting and then pumping. So I got bluffed out of one of my positions, but, you know, again, can't complain. I was still in these two trades. And by this point, I did TP on my initial trade. I think I closed half the trade around this area, and I locked in about $9. I closed a little more of my trade than I wanted to, but at this point, we were ranging in resistance. I was a bit less confident in it than I was when I initially entered. And the fact that we were moving back up towards the high, I decided to TP there. And, you know, it was a bit early because I could have hit my TP up here, could have locked in a bit more with that. But after that, I just left the position alone, and I let it ride, and ride it did. We continued pumping up. We initially ran into some resistance up here, ranged in this zone for a while. I'm going to have to go to a higher time frame because it took a while for us to continue higher. Actually, let me just go ahead and exit out of this, because, yeah, he continued to move to the upside, continued to run into my targets, and I took my next TP at 3237, so that would be right about here. So I hit my second TP at my next big area of resistance, and at this point, I did enter this trade initially with a 1% risk, and I locked in $29.50 with that second TP. So yeah, now I'll show you my position. I'm currently up and realized $49.46 in unrealized. Currently by far my best trade. I don't think I had a winner even close to this yet. Since ETH is just continuing to trend to the upside, I've basically been following price up and sort of mentally moving my stop loss, even though I haven't actually moved my stop loss from my entry, I don't believe. If I started seeing signs of bearishness, which so far we have not, we've just been making higher lows and higher highs the entire time. So until that changes, I'll just keep the trade open. And, I am looking at some targets above us. I think this high up here is very significant. This is a high time frame range high, so I probably will be taking profit there regardless of if there are bearish signs or not. At a certain point, just makes sense to take your profits when you got them. But we are running into some resistance now as well. We already retraced from it, hoping that we can kind of curl back to the upside here. So now moving on and going back to Bitcoin, that is it for ETH. Next trade was on the 10th, so we'll just skip ahead to that. This was a loss as well. Looks like I was trading the low of a local range. I see what I was looking at. There were stop losses at these highs that I thought could be taken out if we just continued ranging here, but that ended up being a bad trade. And I took a $3.45 loss on that one. And I did type in filled at the wick low, which means that that was more of a loss than I wanted to take. This was probably a 0.5% risk trade, and I just ended up getting filled at a much lower price, which can happen if price goes through your stop loss very quickly. Sometimes you don't get filled until price is already way lower. So it was unfortunate when that happens, but you got to plan for that to happen every once in a while. So then Bitcoin continued the bullish aggression. My next trade was not until the 11th. So this one, I ended up closing on my trade at a slight loss right here because it looked like my idea was being invalidated. We kind of continued to pump from there, but didn't get anything really too special. I would not have been able to TP on this one, but I could have de-risked. So I took a 55-cent loss on that one. And then my next two trades, nothing special, a small loss and a small win. This scalp trade right here was a slight win, and I was only able to lock in, about $2, I think. By the time I got stopped out, the fees ate away at my profits, so I walked away with about $1.7. Moving on, my next trade was up here on the 13th, and I entered at 118,700 about. So that would be this one. This is the only trade I entered on the 13th. This was a small win, bit of a sketchy number there, but a $6.6 win. Except for the fact that I very quickly gave that back with my next trade right here. I tried to counter trend trade there, which in hindsight looks like a very bad decision, not just because we saw this move, but because of the reason that we saw that move. I mean, it looks pretty obvious in hindsight. So we ended up coming down to some lower supports. Yeah, to add a bit of salt to the wound, I ended up taking another loss at that low. This was a scalp idea where I was looking for a shallow SFP of this low. I can run through bar replay again because we did get a shallow SFP and a bit of a fake reaction. So playing it one candle at a time, yep, that was the reaction that made me enter. We actually closed the 2-minute candle as an SFP, and there was a reason I was looking for this low, aside from the fact that it was just a range low. But in hindsight, there was support just below us. But, you know, the kind of low I was looking at is kind of known for getting shallow SFPs. So I was willing to take this trade. I took 0.5% risk, and if it got stopped out, I was going to look for another trade from this zone. Unfortunately, though, I did not enter it, even though this zone did hold. So I took a loss on that one and then watched price go against me, and this low did actually mark a reversal point, but you know, to make me feel a little bit better, I would have gotten stopped out at entry with this move back down to the downside. And I probably wouldn't have re-entered. I mean, maybe I would have traded this little range, but it was not great considering this move. And yeah, that is it. That is all the trades I took, so I can exit bar replay. I mean, I'm currently looking at a couple scalp trades, but mainly I'm watching Ethereum, and I'm you know, looking for signs to TP or maybe even opportunities to enter another long. You know, it looks like we are maybe forming a nice range here. I like the curving effect that we're starting to see. If there's a long setup here, maybe I'll take another trade there. I think there is still logical targets above us. And I already did the updating for the spreadsheet. And I did include the unrealized profit from this trade in the update. So this has turned out to be my best trading episode so far. We have went from putting in a new low to putting in a new high in my trading account balance. And we are actually starting to make some progress in the right direction. And I will say I probably could have tried to trade on these two accounts a bit more. There was a lot of opportunity over the last 2 weeks with everything pumping. I could have just tried to enter longs wherever, and I was trading. I was taking trades on other exchanges, a lot of CoinM longs. I just don't like, you know, entering the same trade on multiple exchanges. You know, if I see an opportunity with an altcoin and it's one that I can't CoinM long, I would rather do that because I make more profit doing it that way. But hopefully I will have more free days in the upcoming weeks. I will have more days to trade, and hopefully I will take advantage of those trading days and make smart decisions during those trading days, because I really got to try and maximize my opportunities. But anyways, that does it for this video. Thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you all in the next one.